Good afternoon, folks. This afternoon's topic A, seniors and alcohol. Okay, I'm going to do a little narrative for you. Here we go. on winter's evenings in northwestern Pennsylvania, when the daylight slips away before most people have finished their errands, Margaret liked to sit at her kitchen table and listen to the hum of her refrigerator. It was the only sound in the house now. Her husband, Bill, had been gone for 3 years, and the silence had settled into the rooms like dust, fine, persistent, impossible to fully sweep out. She kept a bottle of white wine in the fridge door, not the expensive kind, something light, something she could sip without thinking. She told her daughter it helped her sleep. She told her doctor it helped her appetite. She told herself it helped her loneliness. All three were true in their way. The first glass was ritual. She poured it while the evening news played. The anchor's voice rising and falling like a tide. She no longer felt part of the second glass. Came after she microwaved her dinner. A single chicken breast, a scoop of mashed potatoes. The third arrived without ceremony, a quiet refill while she scrolled through old photos on her phone, Bill smiling in every one. Margaret didn't think of herself as someone who drank. She thought of herself as someone who coped. The slow drift. Alcohol rarely announces itself loudly in older adults. It drifts in like fog, softening edges, blurring days. Margaret noticed she was unsteady on the basement stairs. She forgot whether she'd taken her blood pressure medication. She bruised easy. She blamed age because age is a convenient explanation. And because admitting anything else felt like a failure. Her primary care visits were quick. How much do you drink? The doctor asked, eyes still on the computer screen. Oh, just a little wine, she said. He nodded. She nodded. The conversation moved on. One, no one asked the real questions. Are you lonely? Are you grieving? Are you afraid of the nights? Are you drinking because it fills the space where you where you where your life used to be? The moment of of recognition. One icy morning, Margaret slipped on her front steps. The fall wasn't dramatic, no broken bones, no ambulance, but it rattled her. She sat on the cold concrete, heart pounding, realizing she couldn't remember whether she'd had wine the night before or how much. She told her daughter about the fall. Her daughter told her she was worried. Margaret felt a flicker of shame, then defensiveness, then something softer, relief. Someone had noticed. That night, she didn't open the fridge. She sat at the kitchen table again, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. The silence felt different. No, not quite friendly, but not hostile either. She wondered if she could learn to live with it. The truth beneath the surface. The alcohol misuse in older adults rarely looks like the stereotypes. It looks like Margaret, quiet, private, functioning. It looks like grief that has nowhere to go. It looks like boredom, insomnia, chronic pain, and the slow erosion of social ties. It looks like a coping mechanism that becomes a companion, then a crutch, then a risk. And it is everywhere, in senior apartments, in rural homes, in retirement communities, in the houses of people who raised families, worked hard, paid taxes, and never imagined they'd struggle with alcohol. At 78, the path forward. Margaret Margaret eventually told her doctor she wanted help, not detox, not rehab, just someone to talk to. She joined a small support group at the senior center where Other older adults shared stories that eerily sounded eerily like hers. She learned that her body metabolized alcohol differently now. She learned that her medications amplified its effects. She learned that she wasn't alone. She still kept wine in the fridge, but the bottle lasted weeks instead of days. She poured a glass only when she truly wanted one, not when she needed one. She began walking with a neighbor. She started attending a grief group. She slept better. The silence in her house didn't disappear, but it softened. She learned to sit with it without numbing it. The larger truth. Margaret's story is not unusual. It's the quiet epidemic of aging, hidden, polite, socially acceptable, and deeply dangerous. Alcohol misuse among seniors is rising, driven by loneliness, chronic illness, and the invisible weight of loss. But it is also treatable, interruptible, preventable. It begins with noticing, with asking better questions, with seeing older adults not as fragile relics, but as full humans carrying decades of joy and sorrow. It begins with understanding that the third glass of wine is really about the wine. A concise takeaway. When the roads are long and the nights are quiet, a, in rural communities, life has a particular rhythm. The days start early, the roads stretch far, the neighbors now know one another's histories, and the nights, especially in winter, can feel impossibly quiet. For many older adults, that quiet becomes the hardest part of aging. Families often notice small changes first. A parent who seems unsteady on the porch steps, a grandparent who forgets a conversation from the night before, a spouse who goes through a bottle of wine faster than they used to. These signs rarely look dramatic. They look like aging, but sometimes they're something else. Alcohol misuse among rural seniors is almost always subtle. It's a coping mechanism that grows in the spaces where connection has thinned. Why, why rural seniors are especially vulnerable. In towns where grocery store in towns where the grocery store is 20 miles away and the nearest mental health clinic is even further. Older adults often face challenges that make alcohol feel like an easy solution. Older adults often face challenges challenges that make alcohol feel in, feel like an easier solution. Isolation, long distances, harsh winters, and limited transportation. Grief, the loss of spouses, siblings, and lifelong friends. Chronic pain, arthritis, old injuries, farm related wear and tear. Sleep problems, nights that stretch on without distraction. Limited access to care, fewer clinicians, fewer specialists, fewer check ins. Alcohol becomes a companion, a way to soften loneliness, a way to pass time, a way to feel less anxious about health or finances. In rural life, where independence is a point of pride, asking for help can feel like admitting defeat. So the drinking stays quiet. The signs the signs families often see but don't name. Your mother says she's just tired, but she's fallen twice this month. Your father with pain pills, so your spouse seems more confused at dusk, more irritable, more withdrawn. In rural communities, families often chalk these changes up to age or weather or stress. But older bodies metabolize alcohol differently. Even small amounts can cause memory problems, balance issues, medication interactions, mood changes, sleep disruption. What looks like aging may be alcohol, and what looks like alcohol may be loneliness. A story rural families will recognize. Picture your Picture your mother in her farmhouse kitchen. The radio plays softly. The wind rattles the windows. She pours a glass of wine. Because the house feels too quiet. She pours a second because she's still awake. She pours a third because she doesn't want to think about the ache in her hip or the long drive to the doctor. She's been putting she's been putting off. She she isn't trying to harm herself. She's trying to soothe herself in a place where help is far away and pride runs deep, and you noticing the bruises, the forgetfulness, the fatigue are trying to help her find another way. How rural families can start the conversation. Approach gently. Rural elders carry a lifetime of independence, hard work, and self reliance. Shame closes the door, compassion opens it. Try language like, I've noticed you seem a little unsteady. How have you been feeling? I worry about you being alone at night. Can we talk about what helps? I know the winters are hard. What makes them easier for you? I love you. I want you to be safe. Can we look at this together? Avoid labels. Avoid confrontation. Focus on safety, connection, and dignity. What role families can do. Start with a medical check in. Even a phone visit can help. Address isolation directly. Regular calls, shared meals, church visits, neighborhood check ins. Encourage safer routines. Eating before drinking. Avoid alcohol with sedatives. Limit quantities. Use local anchors, pastors, librarians, pharmacists, EMS volunteers. Seek support, vital recovery groups, caregiver networks, rural health hotlines. In rural life, connection is the strongest protective factor. Even small, consistent contact can reduce drinking dramatically. The hopeful truth. Alcohol misuse among rural seniors is common, but it is not inevitable. Families can make a profound difference simply by noticing, asking, and staying present. Most older adults don't need confrontation, they need companionship. They need someone to sit with them in the quiet so they don't reach for something to fill it. The goal isn't to take something away, it's to give something back: safety, dignity, and the feeling of being seen. Okay, guys, I have shows for later. I will be back on later tonight for the rest of today's shows. So until then, Gator Wellness, take care, folks.